how depression and anxiety and poor mental health can be a result of what is being signaled up to the brain from what's present in the gut. And I can totally attest to that. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel if you've been here before, and if you haven't, my name is Julia. I am an advocate for and a student of holistic nutrition and holistic living. So you're here for a Wellness Wednesday / Thursday, depending on when I post, and every week Wellness Wednesday / Thursday is where I share with you guys things that I'm learning throughout my own health journey and through my studies. So last week's video was about gut health, the microbiome, and how important it is for our entire system. This week we're kind of building off it, but we're delving in a little bit deeper into a more specific topic. We're talking about the gut-brain axis, or the brain-gut axis, which is something that I briefly touched on last week. And kind of like we were saying last week, everything you put into your body impacts your system in one way or another. But I want to take it a step further and talk about the brain-gut axis, which focuses more on the connection between the mind and the gut, and how that's important. So as we talked about last week, if we're consuming something bad, for example, we're running the risk of throwing this ecosystem, this vibrant ecosystem, off balance, which down the line can cause some problems and diseases. The gut is actually known as the second brain. Take that in. And it's called the second brain because it can actually function completely separately from the brain. And that's because it contains the enteric nervous system, which has anywhere from about 100 to 500 million different neurons in it. So that second brain, that is the gut, can control behavior completely separately from the brain. That is crazy. It can function completely independently of the brain, and that's because it has its own senses. So from the brain, there is the vagus nerve, and that nerve goes straight all the way down to the GI tract, the gastrointestinal system, and it regulates and it governs the GI tract. So let's say, for example, you smell something yummy. Your brain signals gastric juices to start flowing. Your brain signals saliva to be secreted so that your mouth can start producing enzymes to break down starches. So there is this connection from the brain to the gut that governs digestion and regulates digestion. But that is actually only 10% of the function. Only 10% of the function is from here to here. 90% of the function is from here going this direction. So 10% is what the brain is signaling the GI tract. 90% is what the GI tract is signaling the brain. So info is actually going from the gut, being absorbed into afferent neurons, meaning they're traveling in this direction, and this information is being signaled to the central nervous system. So there's actually a study by, let me get the name for you. It's a study done by Front Psychiatry, and it's called The Vagus Nerve as Modulator of the Brain-Gut Axis in Psychiatric and Inflammatory Disorders. It's basically talking about how this biodirectional communication connects the gut to the cognitive and the emotional centers in the brain. So basically what they're saying is that what we consume, what we put into our bodies, what we put into our gut, is directly impacting the brain. It's directly impacting our cognitive state, our concentration, the way we think, our focus, and our emotional centers. So how we're feeling, our mood, crazy. Not even to mention though that 90% of serotonin, the feel-good hormone, is produced in the gut. And there are two other studies, completely separate studies, one done in the UK and one done in Japan, that found statistical links between depression and the consumption of processed or junk food. So basically, what these three studies are revealing is that our minds and our brains are directly impacted by the fuel that we put into our bodies. So yes, consuming bad food or junk food is bad on a chemical level because the toxins get into your bloodstream and that's problematic. And yes, Consuming bad food is problematic because it throws off the flora, the ecosystem that's in the gut, and that can also cause problems. This will be a problem on a neurological level. It could be a problem on a sensory level because these several 100 million neurons that are in the gut signaling the brain constantly. These studies are talking a lot about how depression and anxiety and poor mental health can be a result of what is being signaled up to the brain from what's present in the gut. And I can totally attest to that from my own experience in the past with severely crippling depression and severely crippling anxiety and even ADHD. And I was on drugs for those three things. I was on antidepressants, switching between a couple different antidepressants to try to find the right one. I was on ADHD medications, also doing the switching with that. And it was a really bad issue. And it was only when, by the absolute grace of God, by the way, when I learned to take care of myself and change up my habits, my eating habits, and my lifestyle, that I was able to step out of what I was going through. And that is a whole other story. I attribute that 100% to Christ's grace, and that is my Jesus testimony that I couldn't share another. The point of me saying that is that I've experienced firsthand how I felt when I was eating crappy all the time, experiencing a massive shift in my mental health when I adjusted my diet and my lifestyle and started taking care of myself. So I totally agree with these studies. It is the perfect time to use this pun. That is some food for thought, something to be mindful of, that what you eat directly impacts the brain, which directly impacts the centers in the brain for cognitive function and your emotional well-being. So everything is linked, something to consider. Thank you for watching. As always, if you want to talk about something, if you want to shift the conversation in a specific direction, or if you have any questions or you just want to chat, hit me up. God bless you.